Welcome back everybody to exoticcarplayplace. Thanks for joining in. Today's video is the beginning of a small series where we're really going to be talking about the supercar lifestyle and where do you start? How do you make that decision about buying a supercar? Then how do you proceed with shopping for it? How do we get to this point where we're driving a supercar today? There's lots of things that have to sort of align. Number one, first of all, there's absolutely no sense in owning these cars, financially or otherwise, other than what comes from the heart. And again, life's too short to drive boring cars, so that's why people like myself and many thousands of hundreds of thousands of people out there also feel the same way, because there's a passion. So that's the first thing that you have to understand. There's got to be a passion for the car. It makes no sense to try to justify ownership of a supercar because justification is just not there. How do you justify spending $500,000 on a car only to have it worth 300 grand, say 4 or 5 years later? There's no way to justify that in my mind. The only way maybe you could justify it is if you had a business and you had decals and logos and you utilized it as some sort of business opportunity for marketing. In which case then you can write off some of your losses, and that's a whole nother discussion. But really, there's no way to justify it. So the first stage in owning a supercar is having the passion. Do you have the passion for these cars? I suspect you guys probably do because you're watching this video, and ultimately that's what you have to start with. So you have to have the passion. For me, I had the passion when I started out young. I was in my early teens. I saw these cars in a movie. It was actually Cannonball Run, where it featured a Lamborghini Countach. When I saw that, I was so amazed and so stunned by just the sheer presence of the car and the doors and the sounds. It was just amazing. And I knew one day I had to get near a car like that. Then years later, of course, my old man and I were in a stereo shop. We saw the red Alpine Lamborghini Countach. And again, at that point, I had told my old man at that point that I really needed to get into a car, and one day I would drive a Lamborghini. Not because I said so, but because the heart told me that's where I wanted to be. So again, the passion is what you have to start with. Do you have the passion or not? So the next thing that you have to consider, so how do we get to this stage? Well, it's more than just the passion. So you need other things. Finances. It's very difficult if you're making minimum wage. I mean, it's not that it's impossible, but again, I would say finances are a significant part of this. So it's good to have that goal, and you really have to have goals and objectives. So you've got to look down the road and have this big goal. Otherwise, you'll never get there. It'll never be on the radar, and quite frankly, you'll never motivate yourself enough to justify something like this. So ultimately, you have to have finances, and you have to have a bit of a record of finances. So as you move along, can you do it on minimum wage? You probably could. Other things have to take a back seat. And again, as a car guy, you have to answer that for yourself, whether that's justification or not. However, realistically, finances have to be there. So you'll find yourself in a position where you'll be going to school, you'll be working your job eventually once you're out of school, and then life moves along. Of course, you get out from life, maybe you meet your future spouse, possibly getting into other things. You might have to travel for work. You get into the work routine. The first thing that comes to mind, I need a car, usually a basic mode of transportation. Then comes the house and the dog and the 2.5 kids. Now, after all that happens, you'll find yourself in a position where, okay, now what? I've been kind of in this for a while. Now I'm starting to earn some money. And even for me, it wasn't something that clicked right away. Like I said, I'd been driving lesser sports cars for a long time. I started with a Fiat X19, moved to an RX-7. Then I moved in a couple of different Porsches, a 911 SC, a 930 Turbo. And then I got to the point where, wait a minute, I'm upgrading. So then all of a sudden, I hadn't even thought about a Lamborghini for the longest of time. But then you get to the point where, wait a minute, if I sell this car, I'm making X amount dollars per year. I have enough left over after paying the mortgage and the taxes and all the bills. Wait a minute, I think I could do this. Then you have that flash moment where you actually realize that, wait a minute, I might be able to actually do this. And everybody's got that aha moment at any given time. Some people, it hits them when they're 19, where they suddenly hit that big job, that cash handout from their parents. Or maybe all of a sudden they become a lawyer, they're 30 years old, bang, that's my first priority, I'm going to buy an exotic car. Whatever that is, you get to that point And then you realize, hey, I can do this. Your finances are lined up. You've got a place to live. You have a place to store the car, and everything just seems to work. So that's when the decision is, I'm going to buy a supercar. Yes, that's it. I can buy an exotic, and now it's time. So then what's next? Well, okay, so finances, family, house, everything's in place. Now I want to buy a supercar. So the next thing is, well, what kind of supercar? Do you have an underlying burning or yearning for a specific car like I did? I wanted a Lamborghini. It was always something I wanted. I loved every supercar. Trust me, I like fancy, fast cars. Anything that's unique and interesting, I love those cars. However, I always knew I wanted a Lamborghini, and I made it happen. So you have to realize and decide for yourself, what do you want? You have to prioritize the type of car you want now. And every single one of these exotics does something entirely different. So you have to decide, where's your priorities, where's your passion lie. I'll give you a few hints. For example, the big players in town. I mean, there's the hypercars and there's a lot of great outliers. But the mainstream supercars, it becomes a very difficult decision if you don't know. But if you've done your homework or you have a passion that underlines this whole situation, then it becomes easy. For example, Lamborghinis. They're loud, they're brash, they're aggressive looking. There's no mistaking. They're not precise like a Ferrari in terms of racetrack capability, but they're fast in a straight line and just overly aggressive, kind of like a bull, if you will. Like they say, the bull in a china shop. That's what Lamborghinis are. They look aggressive. Look at the rake. They're very mean looking. They're wide and low. They have some of the best profiles, and they're just what they are, a Lamborghini. Ferrari, on the other hand, is precision, race engineering, absolute pedigree, and race heritage. Ferraris, hey, it's the name as well. Ferrari is beautiful thing. So Ferraris, you know what? They have their own unique sound. Their V12s are to die for. Their V8s are awesome as well. So Ferraris are really, really a special vehicle, but they feel very different than a Lamborghini. They're more agile. They're lighter, nimbler on their feet, more like a cat. Feels more like a pit bull. Bigger, beefier, but not quite as nimble and as aggressive. Now, that being said, then you've got another player, Porsche. Porsche is precision engineering, fast, deadly, scalpel sharp, and it does everything you want it to do and will never break. Some of the most precise and most reliable supercars out there are built by Porsche. And then, of course, you have McLaren. Who can forget McLaren? Some of the best technology in terms of carbon fiber enclosed chassis with some aluminum add-ons and some plastic and carbon throughout. Makes a car super light. And with twin turbo V8s in all of their modern McLarens, makes them some of the fastest supercars available. As a matter of fact, almost any McLaren will whoop the pants off of this. The only downside is with the McLarens, they depreciate like a rock, so you have to expect that. And of course the name, the badging isn't quite there what a Lambo or a Ferrari has. That being said, they're faster than almost anything from Maranello or hey, what can I say? So you've got to make a decision. What's the car for me? And then how do we proceed with that? The shopping experience is next. So in a nutshell, if you want to see more, how about a review on this car right there? There's a link right there. And if you want to see more information in general about Lamborghini, there's another link over here. Be sure to click on either one. As well, don't forget to come back to next week's video. Again, as I say, on Wednesday, we're going to be into the next of this series. Love to hear from you guys down below in the comments, and I'd love even more to see you guys on the next one. Catch you soon. Bye-bye.